Hi, welcome to episode number 498 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where every episode show notes will be, including this one, and I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, December 12th. I can hardly believe we are in the last month of the year. And I have been away for a week, so I am back today. Thank you for coming and visiting with me a little bit. I returned yesterday from my week-long it wasn't entirely a vacation. I did do some work. My week-long vacation to California to see my family for the holidays. This is a tradition. So I've spent almost every Thanksgiving with my family since I was born. It is our kind of, on my side of the family, my big family holiday. We did not in the pandemic, and we have time shifted a few times when my sister had children, we have shifted locations quite a bit, but most often we are in California. We gather at my parents' house, and my sister and her husband and their two children come, and then we have Thanksgiving, kind of just the 8 of us, and then usually on Friday we do kind of a little family reunion of sorts, and I have some aunts and uncles who come join us. So, and this year we actually had a family member who was visiting from the East Coast, and so she joined us as well. Hold on just a second, my nose is running just a little bit. Anyway, it was an eventful week. Wes and I left on Friday the 24th. We left in the evening, and we drove a couple hours just to kind of kickstart our drive to California, because we drive. And then, unfortunately, Saturday morning, Wes woke up not feeling well at all. And I was a little nervous that was going to put a damper on our trip. We think maybe he had food poisoning. It was not pretty. So he actually slept in the car almost the entire day, and I drove almost the entire day, which is not normal. Normally he does almost all the driving and I knit and navigate. But he slept and I drove, and thankfully by Sunday he was feeling better, and we got into Los Angeles around 4 or 5 o'clock on Sunday, after 2 days of really long driving. And on our way out, especially because he wasn't feeling well, we made a lot of rest stops, but we didn't actually stop. Sometimes we stop and have a nice meal, or we stop and do a little sightseeing, and we did not do any of that on the way out because he just wasn't feeling up to it. And so we just kept stopping for restroom breaks and water and sodas and more snacks, and we kind of hauled our way out there. We actually did stop overnight in hotels twice. But it was long days of driving. And then on Monday, my sister and her husband took the children to Disneyland. So Wes and I kind of hung out with my parents for the whole day, which was really nice. I worked a little bit. I worked half days Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then it was just lots of eating and family time. Monday and Tuesday, so Monday we spent almost entirely with my parents because the kids were gone. And then Tuesday the kids came back, and we spent lots of time with the kids. And at this point, I have a niece and nephew. They are 11 and 8, and their favorite person in the world outside of their parents is their Uncle Wes, because he is a combination of jungle gym and big old child, and he plays all their games and gives them piggyback rides, and they just absolutely love him. And so we all kind of kept them busy, but particularly Wes. And then on Wednesday, we did more. We did trips to the library. We did trips to the park. And then on Wednesday, we did some cooking to kind of prep for Thursday. And then Thursday was, of course, our big meal. We spent lots of time cooking during the day. And then we also did family photos, and we did our Hanukkah. So my family is Jewish. Hanukkah actually doesn't start this year until December 25th, which is Christmas, because it is on the lunar calendar, so it moves each year. But we, because we don't celebrate Christmas, we meet together at Thanksgiving, and we usually just do kind of a time shift and do Hanukkah when we're together so we can exchange gifts with each other. So we did, and I should say that I finished Roxy's socks on the way out to California. Or I finished them, I think, the Monday while the kids were at Disneyland. I put the toe on, and so they were very pleased with those. I gave them bathrobes, new fluffy bathrobes from LL Bean, and then I gave them some hand knit socks. And then Thursday we had our Thanksgiving dinner, and then Friday we did kind of a reunion with the family, like I said. And about 3 o'clock, Wes and I took off to begin our drive home, and we went all the way to Kingman, Arizona the first night, which is like just over the border from California into Arizona. And then the next night we went all the way to Amarillo, Texas, and the trip home was kind of fun. So we were very worried actually about the trip home because the weather on Friday and Saturday in Kansas City was supposed to be very, very cold and snowy, wintry mix, icy, and we were very concerned about the roads. As it turned out, the weather in Kansas City was really bad on Saturday, but Sunday the temperatures got up into the 30s and the sun came out, so a lot of it melted. And so by the time we actually got home, there was almost no evidence that there had been snow. There were like a couple little patches on the roof, but we didn't have trouble with the roads. Anyway, we got into Amarillo, Texas about 6 or 7 o'clock on Saturday night. And so I went looking for a restaurant for us because we didn't really get, like I said, we didn't get to explore on our way out. And I found a restaurant called the Drunken Oyster, which was Cajun food and an absinthe bar. And it was a kick. The food was excellent. The cocktails were absolutely amazing. It was this big kind of restaurant, and we came in and they had a live bluegrass band playing. And in the main room where the bar was, because it's an absinthe bar, the whole bar was green. Like, it was green lit. It was beautiful. It had like a glass and all kinds of, they had, I want to say like 12 or 15 different kinds of absinthe. And so because we were already in Amarillo and we were maybe just like 5 minutes from our hotel, we decided that we were going to enjoy some cocktails because we didn't really drink on this trip because we were doing a lot of driving. But because we were right close to our hotel, we had a couple drinks with dinner, which was lovely. I mean, nobody got drunk. We were still able to drive, but like I would not necessarily have had cocktails if we were going to get back on the highway for another couple hours. So we had cocktails and we had appetizers and food and desserts, and the meal was absolutely amazing. Probably the best cocktails I have ever had, and definitely one of the best desserts I have ever had. So it's called the Drunken Oyster. It's in Amarillo, Texas, if you ever happen to be through there. So we spent the night and we got up early to head home the next day, concerned about, sorry, my nose is still running. I am not ill, but between driving back and forth across the country, and going through deserts, and then when we got back it was very cold and we had to turn the heat on, and actually our heater wasn't working. I'll tell you that part in just a second. So my nose has been, my sinuses have been a little bit plugged, and my nose has been running on and off for the last week and a half. Just changes in climate and all the plants that we were around. Anyway, so Sunday we got up early and we went to head home, and we drove over to Oklahoma City, and then we started to kind of head north, and we didn't have any trouble heading north because in Oklahoma City it was about 45, 50 degrees, and so any weather that could have gotten in our way, it was sunny, it was nice, so it was melting off. And just before we crossed the border into Kansas from Oklahoma, there was a sign at the side of the road that said quilt store and toy store. And Wes turned to me and was like, fabric and toys, what could be better? Let's go. So we detoured off the highway when we got into Kansas, and it was really only a few miles off the highway. And it is this little town called Wellington, Kansas, and the quilt shop is called Beehive Quilt Shop. And it was a really lovely little shop. Wellington is like many of the towns in Kansas, where it has an old main street that's maybe about half occupied with new businesses and half unoccupied. You can see that like back in the day, it was definitely the main drag. It's where all the parking is. And we went in, and literally it was a really big store, and literally kind of half the store was all toys, including like Legos and kits and board games and all kinds of things. And then half the store was fabric, and they had really great fabric, lots of modern stuff, Moda and Riley Blake and Kimberbell and Kaif and Tula, and just like all kinds of really, really lovely modern fabrics, really bright and colorful, and the quilts on the walls were really lovely. And Wes had said, are you going to get anything? And I thought, gosh, I really don't need any more fabric. But I have a quilt that I sort of cut out and went to start before I left, and I did not have backing for it. And so I pulled the photos of the fabric up on my phone, and I wandered around the store, and I found a piece of wide backing fabric that is like just a great color. And so I went ahead and got some of that, and Wes found some toys. And it turns out, because I had been concerned that maybe a fabric shop wouldn't be open on a Sunday in a tiny small town in Kansas, I was mostly right. It turns out they are only open on Sundays in December because they are half toy store, and so it behooves them to keep the store open the last 4 Sundays before Christmas, so that people can do shopping. Anyway, it was really lovely, and then we got back in the car and came home. We got home about 5 o'clock in the evening, which was great. I had a frozen pizza in the freezer, and so we were going to do that, and then we were going to run out to the market and pick up a few things. And the only snafu is that we got into the house and it was cold. It was about 50 degrees in the house, because it had been in the 30s most of the day, and by the time we got back, it was getting dark. And I assumed that the house was just cool because oftentimes when we leave for like a week's vacation in the winter, Wes will turn the heat way down. Obviously, we don't, if it's going to be freezing, we don't want the pipes to freeze, but he turns the heat way down because there's no point in heating a house that we're not going to be in. So I said to him, "Ooh, it's chilly in the house." And he said, "Yep." And he flipped the heater on, and I heard the heater kick on. And then I went about doing a couple other things, and then I realized maybe like 10 minutes later that the heat wasn't on and that it wasn't feeling any warmer in here. And I didn't expect it to go up like right away. But so I said to him, I was like, "It's still cold in here." And he's like, "I'm working on it." And I was like, uh-oh. That's not a good sign, especially after we've driven 8 hours. And it turned out that there was some kind of malfunction in our heater. It wasn't getting enough air in the intake valve, and so it wasn't staying on. It would turn on for 25 or 30 seconds, and then it would go to the next phase where it would like basically try and pull in air, and it would shut down because it couldn't pull in any air. So Wes was like, "I think you're going to need to call someone." So it's like 5:30 p.m. And so I pick up the phone and I call the company that dealt with our plumbing emergency last year that I love. And they said, "Okay, it'll be $150 extra to come see you now because it's after our service hours." And I was like, "Okay, when is the next appointment?" And she said, "Or we could fit you in tomorrow." And I said, "You know what? We had power in the house, so I could cook, we could take hot showers, we could make hot tea, we could put on lots of clothes, and the house was only 50 degrees. I mean, it wasn't freezing in the house. It was cold, but it wasn't freezing." And so I said, "You know what? I think I'll just wait till the morning." And so I took a hot shower, and then I pulled out all my runner's gear, which is like fleece lined. And I put on all my wool sweaters and wool socks and everything and got on the couch and got under a blanket and made myself a hot cup of tea. And we have a gas fireplace, which does not do a lot to heat the room, but it does a little bit. And Wes actually does have a small portable space heater, so we were going to put that in our bedroom for the evening. So we really were not that badly off. And then he realized he took the metal casing, the front door off the heater, and it turned out that without the door on, the heater would cycle on and run. So there was something somewhere that wasn't working, but we went in and let the heat run overnight, so it was okay. And then the company came out today and they like sneaked out the line. They thought there might have been a blockage. They tuned up a few wires, they replaced the filters, they did a few things. They didn't really find anything, so the charge was really only $100 for them to come out and look at it. Our theory is maybe one of the switches is going, and so this may not be the last time we have to call them, but I appreciated that it was only $100 for them to come out to the house and look, and you know, there wasn't anything else that they charged us for. So so that's where we're at now. And so let's talk about crafting. I have lots to show you, and I am pleased to say that I did a lot of crafting on this trip. I didn't finish or get done as much as I thought I would, but I felt like I was constantly doing little bits and pieces of knitting. The kids are older now. Like I said, they're 11 and 8. And they do a lot of entertaining themselves and like flitting from person to person, and they don't need like a lot of supervision at this point. So I basically picked up and put down my knitting a lot this weekend and like worked on it this past week and worked on it in 10 to 20 minute segments. And as it turns out, I think that was super productive, and also like really great for my arm, because I didn't sit and knit for hours and hours and hours. I did some here and some here and some here and some here. And in between, I went off and played games with the kids, and we went for walks, and we cooked, and we did all kinds of things. And I'll have to see if I can figure out how to work that more into my schedule, because I feel like I got a lot done, a lot more than I have done in recent past, and I do think it's because I moved projects pretty I worked for a little bit and then took some time off, and then worked for a little bit and took some time off. So yeah. So, I have a new mug and new tea today. My sister gave me for the holidays, a mug and a selection of teas. My sister, heads to, Stratford in Canada, named for Stratford upon Avon, and, they host a Shakespeare festival, and so she vacations there every year with a couple friends of hers, and apparently it's a really cute little town, and they have all kinds of things, and one of the things that they have is a tea shop, and so she brought me back a mug, which is perfect. It is a cabled mug. I love it, and it sort of matches. I have a teapot and a plate. It's not exactly the same. It's not the same brand, but it looks very similar. And it comes with this cute little lid, which says warm and cozy. And then actually inside the mug, at the very bottom of the mug, there are two little red mittens. So like when you finish drinking your tea, there are mittens down there. And it also came with a tea strainer. So it was like a 3-piece set. The strainer's not in here now because there's tea, obviously. So that's what I've got in here. I can't show you because it will tip out. And the tea that I am drinking today, she brought me a selection of 4 teas, and so you will see them some over the next few weeks, I'm sure. I am drinking, it is called Distinctly Tea Herbal Raspberry Mint, and so that is what it is. This is from distinctlyteastratford.ca, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And the raspberry mint is apple bits, hibiscus petal, blackberry leaf, peppermint leaf, chamomile flower, raspberries and raspberry leaf, flavor, sunflower petal, and blackberries. And it says it has instructions for brewing on it, which is kind of nice. And it smells nice and fruity and delicious. It's an herbal. I decided that I didn't need a whole... I didn't need lots of caffeine late in the afternoon. So it is about 3:15, 4 o'clock. It is starting to get, I guess it's not that late in the afternoon. It is overcast and starting to get dark, so I do have a light on here. And let's talk about the knits. So, funny story. I told you that I finished Roxy socks. I don't have those to show you because they've already been given. But I finished Roxy socks on Monday, and as I cast off and Kitchenered the toe and wove in the ends, my mom said, I think those socks look like they would fit my feet. And the backstory is that my mom is the tiniest of all of us. She is 5'2", and she wears a 5 foot 2 inches, and she wears a US size 5.5 shoe, which is tiny. My sister and I have size 6.5 feet. My sister runs 6.5 to 7, and she told me these are all US sizes. I'm sorry, I don't know European sizes. So Beth told me that my sister told me that the kids' feet are almost as big as ours. She said my niece's feet are almost as big as hers, which means they're about my size. And then my nephew is not too far behind. He's 8, but he's growing quite a bit. He's gone through quite a growth spurt this year, and the kids are really tall bean poles, and they have long feet and hands. So I knit the socks, and my mom looked at them and said, I think these would fit me. And I said, okay, but they're for Roxy. You can't have them. And she said, I'm going to ask Roxy when she gets done with these socks if I can have them. So I looked at my mom and I was like, you really don't need to wait and get hand-me-downs from your granddaughter. I would knit you a pair of socks if you wanted. And she's like, would you? So I came home and I'm going to knit my mom a pair of socks. And then what was really funny is that my dad was like, can I get a pair of socks? And I had knit my dad a pair of socks. The only caveat with my dad is that my dad is allergic to wool, and I have tried merino and a variety of wools, but they make him really itchy. His skin just reacts to it. And so when I knit him socks several years ago, I had knit him socks in wool that he stopped wearing because he developed the allergy several years ago and he just couldn't wear them anymore. And I knit him a pair of replacement socks in Barocco Comfort, which is 50% acrylic, 50% nylon. So completely non-animal fiber, but really nice sock yarn. I really liked working with it, and he said he loves those and he would love another pair of those. So I didn't do a lot of Black Friday shopping, but I did pick up a couple skeins of Barocco Comfort on Black Friday shopping so that I can knit my dad a pair of socks. And my mom was very funny because she said, "You didn't buy any sock yarn for me," when I had done, and I said, no, I have all the bins behind me of sock yarn that my mother can wear. They just all have wool, so my dad can't wear them. So in the next 2 months, expect to see some socks, because I think I'm going to try and get them socks for Valentine's Day. So I can probably finish 2 pairs of socks in the next two and a half months. So I basically, after I finished Roxy's socks, I worked on 2 projects. I brought, let's see, I brought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I brought 6 projects with me. Basically because I gathered up all my whips and threw them in my backpack because they were all pretty small, and I only worked on 2 of them. Well, okay, I took 6 projects with me. Technically, I worked on 4 of them. The first was Roxy socks. The second was I took some chicken yarn with me and I knit some pieces for chicken. It's plain white. It's not exciting. I didn't bring it to show you. So of the whips and things that I took 7 projects. I just realized that. I took 7 projects. Of the things that I took with me, I only worked on 2 things. And so those are the 2 that I'm going to show you. So the first thing that, well, let's start with the big one. The first thing that I worked on was my Nanny Swaymo sweater. I am knitting Excuse Me. It is a pattern by Stephen West of West Knits, and it is for a top-down in the round brioche sweater, and it is called Askews because it is slightly askew. Basically, the pattern is created with increases and decreases in brioche, and it is not a top-down raglan, it is a top-down kind of yoke sweater with a number of increases by which then you pull arms and a body out for it, and then you do sleeves, and then you can make the body as long as you want. And I am probably going to go for something resembling tunic length. So this is the project that I am knitting for my Nanny Swaymo sweater, which technically Nanny Swaymo is over, and I am a total fail because I did not finish. I'm hoping that maybe I can finish by the end of the year. But that is, you know, we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how I feel. We'll see what else strikes the mood. But I am working on that, and I am knitting that in 2 colors of Zen Yarn Garden Nightshades yarn. And actually, I do have tags for it. The colors are numbered. It doesn't matter. Unfortunately, Zen Yarn Garden is, they're retiring this year, and they are shutting the shop down. So I don't believe this yarn, this base exists anymore. So this is the yarn that I am using. It's Zen Yarn Garden. It's called Nightshade Worsted, which means it is marled. It's hard to see on this one, but it is marled, and it has 1 strand of black, which makes it kind of look mottled. And the fiber makeup is 100% superfine superwash merino, and it is 175 yards to 100 grams. And this is, well, so it's milled in Italy and dyed in Canada. And when they announced they were closing, I knew I wanted to make the sweater, and I knew I wanted to make it in this yarn because I had knit a sample of it in not these colors, but this yarn previously, and I knew I wanted to make one for myself. And so I got these 2 colors. So this is the foreground color with all the kind of rainbow bits, and this is the background color with the dark purple. And because it's brioche, this is the one that shows up more, but you definitely do see the purple. And I am excited to say that I finished all of the yoke increases, and that I separated for the sleeves and got a few rounds in on the body as of late yesterday. So it is looking slightly sweater-like. It's a little hard to show because it's a little bit wonky, but so before I left, you saw that I had done the neck, and like I said, you've got your brioche increases and decreases, and so it creates things that are on the bias or a little bit askew. And then you go down and you start working more increases and decreases, and that is also how you then increase the yoke so that you can get sleeves. So you can see this is one sleeve here, and this is the other sleeve here, and I am now working on the body, and I don't have a lot. I didn't do very many rows. I kind of got through the separation and did maybe a couple more rows, but that is where I am. And so this is what I have so far of my, excuse me, these rows were actually, these rounds were really long because I was doing lots and lots of increasing. So now I am down quite a bit on the body. And so my hope is that the body will go quickly. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to make it. For my size, the sweater suggests 13 inches from the separation of the sleeves, but I am definitely going to go more than that because I would like it to be kind of dress or tunic length. And the shape is sort of an A-line because you're continuing to increase on one side, and it's creating kind of an A-line for it. I think my plan is, so these are the second two skeins in the project. So I finished the first two skeins in the last day or so and added the new ones in. And so I think my plan is to finish working these balls of yarn, see how far I get, and then maybe take a break and do the sleeves. I'm not worried about running out of yarn. I have 6 of each color, and that is way more than I will need. But I also think that I don't want to try and do the sleeves on like a huge dress because it will be a lot of bulk in my lap. And so my thought is that I will finish what I can get through of the body with these, and then I will go back and do the sleeves, and then if I want more on the body, I will do that. So that is my plan, and my hope is that I will get lots of work done on this in December. I only knit a little bit last night at knit night. I decided to join knit night when we got home. I only knit a little bit last night because I had knit a bunch in the car, but my hope is that this will be more of a focus project for this month, and that I will make good progress on this and maybe even finish it and have it in time to wear in the new year and before January and February, which will be cold anyway, and I will always take a new sweater for that. So that is the first project. The second project that I just sort of got a bug and started to work on it and really, really enjoyed it, and so I just kept working, is my Clapatee. I started knitting this as a sort of pseudo knit along with Knitty's 20-year anniversary of the Clapatee, and there is actually a knit along and sort of a contest. You, if you post a photo of you in a finished Clapatee that you knit in the, since basically the pattern came out, which I think was October. So Clapatee is actually a 20-year-old pattern, but they re-released it in this deep fall issue of Knitty magazine, or it might be winter, I can't remember, whatever the current issue is. And Knitty is a free online magazine for patterns. It's been going for 20 years. In case I haven't discussed that before, I realize I'm leaving out important details. So they rewrote the instructions to make them a little bit more clear. And so you could use the old one or you could use the new one, but it is a free pattern and it calls for 800 yards of worsted weight yarn, or you can make it in fingering. You can it's a knit on the bias wrap with intentionally dropped stitches, and you could basically make it anything you want, longer, shorter, wider, skinnier, any weight of yarn. And I don't know, I was just feeling kind of bored with a lot of the projects I had in process and wasn't getting a lot of knitting done and wanted to kind of tempt myself to do a project. And so I found an oversized skein in my stash, which was from Threadhead Designs, who is a dare local to me, and it was a 560 yard 8-ounce skein, 223 grams or thereabouts, and dyed in all shades of blues. And so this is what I have left. I still have enough to do several more pattern repeats before I get to the end, but basically the way the pattern starts, you start at a point and you widen, and then you start working on the bias. And so I made note of how many grams it took me to do the first point, because that is roughly how many grams it will take me to then decrease down to the point at the other end. And I am still in the middle section where I'm holding steady in my stitch count and just working on the bias. And so my guess is I've got several more repeats of that before it's time to finish, but I did get quite a bit done. So I had a few repeats done before I left. This is what it looks like, but this is where I am now. So I have quite a bit done. And I want to say that I am knitting the pattern as written, but I am knitting it with less yarn than The pattern called for 800 yards of worsted weight, and I'm knitting with 560 yards. And in the beginning, I was concerned that I would not get a very substantial scarf out of that, and I have to say those fears were not justified because I'm doing just fine. I was worried either it wouldn't be long enough or it wouldn't be wide enough. And so what I did, because I knew I didn't have as much yarn, is I did leave off a few repeats as I was increasing. I didn't increase to quite as many stitches as it suggested. I think I stopped 2 repeats shy of the final, but that has left me with a wrap that is still pretty wide. I'm guessing it's a foot wide here, so I really feel like I haven't, and it will gather a little bit. I think this actually is supposed to be it's supposed to be worn on the wrong side because it kind of blends more and it looks more textured. So these are the intentional dropped stitches that you create. Basically every so often you add a stitch, and then a bunch later on you drop the stitch all the way back down. It's kind of fun. It's a little scary the first time, but once you know what you're doing, you're fine. And so that is what I have going on. And at this point I am not wingspan, but I am very comfortably long, and I probably will be wingspan before I finish. And there's lots and lots of stretch. Actually, this is stretching to wingspan. It's not, unless I stretch it. But so I have probably several more repeats to go. I'll go probably as far as I can because I'd like to use up all the yarn. But I have no qualms about the fact that it's going to be wide enough or long enough now. And I will not finish it by I think the deadline for the pictures to be eligible to potentially win prizes is they extended it, I think, to Saturday, December 7th or Sunday, December 8th. If you want to know more, go ahead and look on Instagram, Knitty Mag. I will not be done in time, but this is the other thing that I would really very much like to finish this month. So these are the 2 projects that I'm going to be focusing on at first. I would like to get these done before I tackle anything else. I have a variety of whips that are still in progress that I took with me on the trip and did not work on. And if I get to working on some of them, that would be great. And if not, then they will follow me into the new year. I am inspired to, like I said, knit some socks for my parents. And then one of Wes's cousins asked me at Thanksgiving, he said to me, "So when am I going to get my knitted sweater?" And I said, I said, "You mean one for your grandson?" Because he has an 18-month-old grandson. And he said, "I suppose we could start there." So on Black Friday, I bought Barocco sock yarn for my dad, and I bought 2 skeins of worsted weight yarn so that I could knit a baby sweater because I didn't have any superwash. And so that I can knit a baby sweater for basically Wes's cousin's grandson. I have no idea what that would, I guess that would make... It's not uncle. No, Wes's cousin's grandson. So apparently I'm going to knit a baby sweater as well. So those are the things that are going to be kind of up and coming in my knitting. And I am starting to think about plans for next year. The kids have outgrown their sweaters, and so I believe I will... I use the word need loosely. I believe I will need to knit them sweaters next year. So I think I'm gonna start to think about that early. And then, like I said, I have a bunch of projects that I could pick up. I will, maybe I won't talk about them here because we're already getting into a long podcast here. I think maybe what I will do is I will save that for an end of the year episode. I'll bring all the whips that I started this year and didn't finish, and the things that I hope to kind of tackle next year. And then my thought is that I will want to cast on some new things, but also traditionally February has been Finishuary for me, which has been fix it, finish it, or frog it. And so I'm looking at those projects with an eye towards them, and kind of maybe we'll focus in on those. I had thought maybe I'd get them done for the end of the year, but we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what I pick up. So that is all that news that's fit to print. I do have one final thing, and I'm very excited about this. I finished a spin, and I had started plying it before I left for Thanksgiving, and I finished it last night, and it has not even been washed yet. But this is the first spin that I have finished since Tour de Fleece, which was beginning of July. So it's been a long time coming. Most of the time I was not working on it. It hasn't taken me quite that long. But this is my finished spin. So this is Nymph. It is fiber from, it is 23 micron count. And it's 23 micron count merino, I believe. Yep. gray merino, which means it is kind of all different colors. It's not the bleached white, or it's not white sheep. It's mixed merino. So it's got darker tones, and it generally makes the skein look moodier. It's got some reds and pinks and mauves and a little bit of gray and some oranges, and it is a really beautiful skein. And my guess is it is going to be between 350 and 400 yards of a worsted weight. It is not super wash, but it is squishy. It would make great socks. It would also make kind of a great hat and mittens. And I am going to wash this, and this should go up in my shop in the next couple days. So if that is something you are interested in, I did not do any Black Friday sales, and I don't, the shop is going to stay open for now, but I don't know how often I'll be adding to it. So, you know, you're welcome to check it out, but it probably won't be stocked as frequently as it was prior to this year. I do have my next spin picked out. I showed you that last time, and I will bring it again next time so I can show you once I get started on it. I haven't even started on it. The braid is sitting at my wheel, which is right behind me, because I just finished this one last night and haven't even started yet. But I'm hoping to maybe incorporate some spinning back into my weekly stuff, and because I used to spin quite a bit. I have knit night with friends on Zoom, and I'm usually in here at my computer, and so I often will spin for a little bit at the beginning of that, and I'm hoping to work that back into my practice so that I move through some braids. I have a lot of fiber, and none of it is getting spun right now, and I have totally slowed down on buying fiber, but yeah. So I think that's about all I have for you today. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I know it's a little bit of a longer podcast, and there was lots and lots of chatty on the front, which probably wasn't that exciting for you, but I wanted to share a little bit about my trip. I did, like I said, I made a few purchases for Black Friday, so you'll be seeing those kind of coming up. I didn't buy anything big. I literally just bought a few things that I guess I can't say needed, but I bought a few things that like I did not have in the stash for projects that I want to do right now, but I tried to be pretty good about not doing a ton of shopping, because we just came back from a trip and I have to pay the guy for the heater today, and yeah. So I hope that you, if you celebrated Thanksgiving or had some time off last week, I hope that it was restful and enjoyable, and that you got some time to craft. I definitely, my bucket feels full. I got that quilting inspiration before I left, and then I went and saw family, and we did a few fun things on the way home, and there was a little bit of getting back to work this week, but I feel kind of inspired, and it's cold out, and it's time for me to get warm and cozy and do lots and lots of crafting. So I hope that you are doing well. I wish you nothing but the best for the week ahead, and I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy whatever craft you're doing, and happy sipping. I'll see you next time. Bye.